उस-
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Can you guys hear me?
वालेकुम अस्सलाम सर। यस।
तो एक सेकंड ये भी स्टार्ट करें और hmm. So remember, just a quick recap. Okay, what were we up to? Okay, we had these four moles formulas. ठीक है किधर गए हमारे four moles formulas and हैं किधर? हाँ ये थे ठीक है main formulas ठीक है I told you there were four main formulas right you had moles as number of particles divided by the Avogadro's number that was formula number one moles is what mass divided by molar mass right concentration of a solution is the number of particles in moles divided by either moles लिख देते हैं it's the number of particles in moles divided by the volume per unit volume right and then you had gases moles was volume of gas divided by 24 dm cube okay so that was moles and I told you everything was being counted in moles and your equation was simply a recipe it told you the ratio in which things are reacting and products are getting produced so if you know the moles of any one of the substance using ratios you were able to figure out the moles of everything in the equation ठीक है ये disconnect हो गया tablet एक second ये फिर से हो जाए एक second just one second अच्छा चले this one I told you कि you know the moles of one thing you will be able to figure out the moles of everything in the equation and so we'll just do one more question then we'll do limiting and excess ठीक है just for practice so one question is that क्या होगा question let's say we've got calcium carbonate reacts with let's say aluminum carbonate so let's say 10 grams of aluminum carbonate make sure you have your calculators ready ठीक है I don't have a calculator 10 grams of aluminum carbonate reacts so what does it do it reacts with let's say nitric acid so what he's asking for is calculate the mass अच्छा बल्कि नाइट्रिक calculate the mass तो छोड़ो whose volume is 600 cm cube. So the question has three parts. Calculate the first part is calculate concentration of nitric acid. Then it has a second part, which is calculate mass of salt. And then it has a third part, which is that you calculate the volume of carbon dioxide gas. Anyways, as I told you first thing, how to solve the Moles question, first thing is you need to know what the reaction is. You need to know what the ratios are. So your equation is what? It's aluminum carbonate. I say it's aluminum carbonate reacting with nitric acid. I'm going to quickly try and balance it. So what's going to happen? H and CO3 are going to form water and carbon dioxide. And whatever is left, that's your salt. Okay, so in this case, so पीछे करते हैं. So whatever is left, that's your salt, that's aluminum nitrate, right? So Al is +3, NO3 is -1, so it's going to be AlNO3 thrice. You need to balance this. Either two ALs, so there should be two ALs. NO3 6 हो जाएंगे, so I need 6. There would be 3 water molecules and then 3 carbons on that side, so 3 carbon dioxide. Anyway, so the equation is balanced. It's 1:6 ratio, 2 ratio, 3 ratio 3, right? अच्छा, based, अब मैंने क्या कहा था कि how would you solve the question? The first thing is you need to find the moles of any one of the things in the equation. So whose moles can you figure out right now? So based on the data that is given, if the mass of a substance is given, you can find the moles. So the moles of aluminum carbonate can be figured out by the formula, which is mass over molar mass, right? Mass is given, that's 10 grams. You now need to know the molar mass as well, which is aluminium is 27 in the periodic table times 2. Carbon is 12, oxygen is 16. So 16 times 3 कितना हो गया? That's 48 plus 12, that's 60. 60 times 3 is 180, 180. So can somebody tell me what's the total molar mass? 27 times 2 plus 180. Ahmed, Zarar, कोई भी करे. Yeah, Peter, can you do this?
09803.
कितना? 0.
098.
बस ठीक है, 980 हो गया ना moles. अच्छा, so you got 0.0980 moles. So the first part was, this information at the moment was not relevant because by only using volume, you can't calculate moles. But the solution में क्या होता है moles? Concentration is moles over volume, right? पहले
Sir,
हाँ जी.
the answer should come out to be 0.0427.
सर ये गलत हो गया, हाँ.
0.0427.
0.0427.
सर वो 13 किससे 16 किससे मल्टीप्लाई हुआ था?
वैसे तो 9 से हुआ था. मैंने तो ये किया था ना, 27 times 2. CO3 जो है ना, that's CO3 जो है ना, 12 plus 16 times 3, right? So that was इसको करो ना, 16 times 3 48 हो गया. 12 60 हो गया. So it was 60 times 3. तो 180 हो जाता ना.
ओके सर, ठीक है.
ठीक है. अच्छा, anyways, कितने moles? 0.0427 moles, right? So remember, the whole question was, if you find the moles of any one thing, so I was able to find out the moles of 0.0427 moles, right? So using these, I can find out the moles of all the reactants and products in the equation by using simple ratios. So ratios का fast तरीका क्या था? You take the moles, divide it by its own ratio, multiplied by the ratio of the other substance. So 0.0427 divided by 1 times 6. So this one would be 0.0427 divided by 1 times 2. So divided by 1 times 2. This would be बल्कि इसको छोड़ ही देते हैं because we don't need water moles. This one would be 0.0427 divided by 1 times 3. Well, 0.0427 divided by 1 times 3. So, tell me the moles. What are these moles? And what are these moles? What are the moles of HNO3 in this question?
0.2562.
0.2562. Okay, next one. So that's these moles. What's the next one? AlNO3 size का
0.0854.
8 times 3. What is this?
0.1281.
1, 2.
81.
So ठीक है, 3 centimeters. Anyways, we found the basic idea was that if you know the moles of one thing, you will be able to figure out the moles of all of the reactants products in the equation. And once you do that, answering the questions is pretty simple. We're going to answer the first question. Calculate the concentration of nitric acid, right? Which is this one. So I'm going to do that. Concentration ka formula. What is the formula? It's moles over volume, right? I have the moles. It's 0.2562. And the volume is given in the question. It was given in the question. It was 600 cm cube, which is in dm cube, that's going to be 0.6. So what is the concentration that we're getting?
Zero point 427.
वापस आ गया 0.427. Anyways, what is the mass as a second part? Calculate the mass of this thing. So moles is what? Mass divided by TRMR, right? Okay, MR in this case, molecular mass. So mass would be what? Moles multiplied by MR. We know what the moles are, 0.08. So we know what the moles are, 0.0854 times the MR. I said now, make sure you know this. The MR is this thing. It's not, you're not going to include the ratio in anything. You don't include the ratio in the MR. So what is the MR? You add up all of them. That's NO3 क्या होता है? 16 times 3, that's 48 plus 62. So it's 62 times 3 plus AL is 27. So बताओ, what is the mass that you're getting?
The concentration 0.0427.
0.0?
0.0427.
ठीक है. वो अगला बताओ कि what is the next thing? Mass is moles multiplied by MR.
Nitrogen is 14, right, sir?
14 plus 16 times 3 was 62.
एल्यूमिनियम कितना होता है?
27. अभी तक कैलकुलेट नहीं हुआ. बाकी तो शान से डबीरा Yeah, can you tell me what the answer is?
ये जो कॉन्सेंट्रेशन है इसमें तो मैं जब कैलकुलेटर में कर रहा हूँ सिर्फ 0.427 ही आ रहा है।
फिर वही होगा। एक second।
Sir, mass comes out to be 36.38.
इसका बताओ ये पॉइंट कितना 36.38 0.0427। एक सेकेंड, नहीं 0.0427 होगा। ये नहीं नहीं 0.427 ही होगा। 0.25 हमने 0.2562 वो भी सही लगा। 0.2562 दैट लुक्स फाइन। डिवाइडेड बाय व्हाट 0.6 0.427 है। जरा ये चेक कर लो, इट्स 0.427। As anyways, the last part is the volume of CO2. He's asking for the volume of CO2. So moles, what's the volume of gas formula? That's volume of gas divided by 24 dm cube, which means that the volume is going to be moles multiplied by 24. And we have the moles, which is 0.128. And we just need to multiply it by 24. What do we get?
$3.072।
So now, moving on.
एक क्वेश्चन है,
हाँ,
एमआर इसकी ज्यादा नहीं होगी इस वाले मैथ्स वाले क्वेश्चन में?
क्यों?
तो देखिए अगर ऑक्सीजन इंटू ऑक्सीजन के 9 होंगे इंटू 2 नहीं होगा?
नहीं नहीं वही तो मैं कह रहा हूँ। MR के अंदर remember कि don't include this two।
ऐसा अगर इंक्लूड नहीं करना तो फिर आंसर 18.19 आता है।
तो नहीं करना था, क्योंकि वो टू जो है ना वो इंक्लूड कर चुके हो आप।
सही।
वो रेशो जब लगाया था ना, when you वो 6:2 नहीं किया था।
तो बेसिकली रेशियो काम नहीं आएगा।
नहीं नहीं वो रेशो तो डाल चुके हो ना, इसलिए तो डबल किया था। डबल तो कर चुके हो, इंटू टू कर चुके हो पहले ही। वो समझ आइए, इंटू टू हो चुका है ना ये वाले। यू गॉट दीज मोल्स राइट, डिवाइड बाय 1 किया है, टाइम्स 2 किया, तो वो डबल कर दिया था ना, तो वाई डबल इट अगेन।
नहीं आई एम आस्किंग कि एमआर के अंदर जो रेशियो यूज होगा सर?
नहीं नहीं करना ना, क्योंकि वो मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि वो कर चुके हो आप, पहले ही कर चुके हो। तो इसलिए MR इज जस्ट गोइंग टू बी MR। ठीक है, यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू इंक्लूड दैट। ठीक, क्या आंसर बताया कि क्या होगा? 0.1।
18.19।
So the answer would be 18.19। ठीक है, so it's 18.19। अच्छा, next is अच्छा now we're going to do limiting and excess, right? तो limiting, एक सेकेंड। अच्छा, अब अगला पार्ट ये कि लिमिटिंग एंड एक्सेस। ठीक है, that's a simple concept that's going to go along with this I mean that's the main question topic। मतलब we already done with the main topic, तो वो minor चीजें। ठीक है, we're going to discuss the minor things। So limiting and excess reactants, as a so far what we did was we did questions where you were given modes of one thing. So for example, you have NaOH reacting with HCl, and it reacts and it produces NaCl plus H2O. As so you have this reaction. Now everything is 1:1. So most of the questions are going to be like this, that you will be given moles of one thing. So if I give you 0.5 moles, by using ratios, because everything is 1:1, you would know that this would be 0.5 moles as well, and this would be 0.5 moles as well. And the water produced would also be 0.5 moles as well. Okay, is this clear? यही हमने किया ना कि if you know the moles of one thing, तो सारों के निकल आते हैं. अच्छा, but now what happens is, if you know the moles of one thing, you were able to figure out the moles of everything. So if you have, if somebody says that he's reacting 20 moles of NaOH, then you would need 20 moles of HCl, 1:1, and that will produce 20 moles of NaCl, and it will also produce 20 moles of water. So now the problem is, usko simplify kar lete hain. Let's say car wala example hai. So I want to make a car, and that one single car is made from kitne tires? 5 tires, and I would need one engine, and I would need 2 headlights, etc. And you make one car. So things have to be added in a certain ratio. So now what we are trying to do now is, what if I give you the quantity of 2 things instead of 1? Agar main ek kehta na, let's say I have 10 tires. So I would need 2 engines, and I would need 4 headlights, and I'm going to make 2 cars. If I have 10 tires, I can make 2 cars. So now the trouble is, what if I give you 10 tires and I give you uh, 1 engine? So how many cars can I make? How many complete cars can I make? So मैंने tires double कर दिए. तो मुझे वैसे बता दो, how many cars can I make if there's only 1 engine?
2 sir.
2 के साथ 2 cars.
One, sir.
1 ही बनेगा ना, because you just have 1 engine, right? So the point is, you adding extra tires, that is in excess. That means they weren't even needed, because you just had 1 engine, so you just needed 5 tires. You didn't need 10 tires, right? The idea clear? Okay, if you're given quantities of 2 things, so one of them is going to get completely used up, but the other one is not going to get completely used up. If you just have 1 engine, you can obviously make just 1 car, and 1 car would need only 5 tires. It will not need 10 tires. So that means that's in excess. And this is the limiting reagent. This is the thing that is limiting the whole process. Okay, this is because you ran out of engines, right? That's why you can't make 2 cars. So idea clear is that if you're given quantities of more than 1 substance, then some of the substances might be completely getting used up, but some other substances might be in excess and they will not be getting used up. Is that clear?
Yes sir.
So वापस question पे आ जाते हैं. So I have this simple equation, 1:1. Which is that if I have 50 molecules of NaOH and I add 75 molecules of HCl, पहले बताओ which one is in excess more than the required amount?
75 HCl.
And the reason for that is that 50 will react with, it will not react, it's 1:1, so 50 will react with 50, right? So that means 25 moles of HCl are in excess. That means they were not required. You just added them and they're getting wasted. They're simply not required. So 50 would react with 50, and they're going to produce 50 moles of NaOH, 1:1, and this is also going to be 50 moles. So the point is, the excess reagent is your reactant, is not used in the is not used in calculations. You basically, what do? You cut it out. And this is your limiting reagent, which is getting completely used up. So that's your limiting reagent. And all calculations are done using that. which means that when I was calculating 50 moles and 50 moles, I was using the limiting reagent. I was not using this 50 because I had realized that 50 was too much. It was in excess. And all of the 75 was too much, and not all of the 75 was getting used up. So is this thing clear that all calculations would be done using the limiting reagent? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Achha, so we're going to make the ratio slightly different, which is achha, so we've got this thing. Now the ratio is 4:1:2. So that means 4 molecules will react with 1 molecule, right? So that means if I have 8 molecules, they're going to react with 2 molecules. Now, I'm going to make the question very difficult, which is that if I have 6 moles of sodium and I have 4 moles of oxygen, which one is in excess? Which one is more than the required amount?
O2.
And how is O2 more than the required amount?
Sir, if we divide 6 divided by 4, so only 1.5 moles are needed.
ठीक है, तो अगर इसको use करते हो ना, and you ignore that there are 4 moles, तो कितना निकलता था? It was
6
4.
divided by the whole ratio.
हाँ, तो 6 divided by 4 times 1, right? So if I do that, it's going to be 6 divided by 4 times 1, and that's going to come out to be 1.5 moles. So the problem is I just needed 1.5 moles. I did not need 4 moles. Okay, so excess wale ko na, you're going to cut it out. Because in this reaction, 6 moles will only need 1.5 moles. Okay, you don't need 4 moles. Ye clear? Is this thing clear to everyone? Yeah, is this clear? Shahzad, Nabila, is this clear? Ye clear? Ahmed, everyone else, is this thing clear? अभी थोड़ा सा और करते हैं, ठीक है? So we're going to do a bit more, which is let's do another one. I've got so we've got this one. So what is the ratio? It's 2:1, right? With I've got 400 moles of this, and I've got 100 moles of this. Which one is in excess based on the ratio? कौन सा वाला ज़्यादा डाल दिया? Shahzad, Abira, Zahar, Ahmed, anyone? Yeah, which one is more than the required amount?
Sodium hydroxide.
Yeah, the reason is that because the ratio is 2:1, 400 needs, according to this ratio, 400 would need half of that, right? It would need 200. So 400 will not be able to react. Like if 100 moles are going to react, they would just need 200 moles on the other side. So you just needed 200 moles to react with 100 moles. So 400 was too much. It was more than the required amount. You're not going to use that number in your calculation. Okay. I said, now the trouble is that if the ratios are are like this, right? The problem becomes that it becomes harder and harder to pick out which one is in excess. And there's a shortcut for that. And that shortcut is, if, for example, if I have 4 aluminiums plus 3 O2 and I want to figure out, yeah, but that's 2Al2O3. I said, so as a 4:3:2. Now, so now the thing is that 4:3:2, right? If I give you 1.58 moles of this and I give you 0.68 moles of this, you get it. Remember, the issue of limiting an excess reactant only happens, it only happens if you're given the moles of two substances. Then you've got a problem. You need to figure out which one is the limiting reagent, which one is the one that's in excess. I said, now we've got a huge problem because it's kind of, by looking at it, it's very difficult to figure out which one is the one that's in excess. वैसे तुक्का लगाओ कि which one do you think is in excess? I mean, the ratio is 4:3.
Aluminum is in excess, sir.
So ठीक है. अच्छा बोलेगा ठीक है. अच्छा, but the thing is that you need to have some sort of shortcut to figure out which one is in excess, and that shortcut is, if you get into this trouble where 2 moles are given and you have no idea whether to use these moles or whether to use these moles, the simple shortcut is take 1.58 and divide that by 4. ठीक है, by its ratio. Take 0.68 and divide it by its own ratio, which is 3. ठीक है, whichever number comes out to be the bigger number, that's the one that's in excess. इसको calculator पे try and solve this. I think which number is the bigger number in the two? It's I think it's this one, right?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, this is the bigger number. So whichever is the bigger number, just don't use that. So you're not going to use this number. That's the one that's in excess, and you can try it on your calculator. Okay, is it true that this is the one that's in excess? So ratio लगा लो 0.68 divide by 3 times 4. How many moles do you get? So 0.68 divided by 3 times 4. So how many moles do you get? What do you get?
0.906.
Yeah, that is in excess because you just needed 0.906 moles, right? So you didn't need 1.58 moles. So anyways, you need to practice this a lot. It's a simple way of finding out. The one that's bigger, that's the one that's in excess. I'm just going to do a few more questions like this. I've got, so let's say I've got 3 NOH plus H3PO4. So I've got this question and the ratio is 3:1. And somebody tells me that this is 250 moles and this is 100 moles. So I can do this by looking at it, or if I want to be very sure which one is in excess, I'm going to do 250 divided by 3, its ratio, and I'm going to do 100 divided by 1, right? So which one comes out to be the bigger number? I think इसमें कौन सा आ रहा है bigger? That's
Sir, H3PO4 वाला.
yeah, this is the one that's bigger. So that is the one that's in excess. So I'm not going to use that. And I'm going to take so all moles calculation will be done using these moles. ठीक है? if I want to find the moles of Na3PO4, I'm going to use these moles. Divide by 3 times जो भी 1 आ रहा है. So you always use, so the point is you always use limiting reactant moles for calculation. You're always going to use those. And which in our case is this. So let's see. So you don't get a lot of limiting. So I'm just going to recap everything. Most questions that you're going to deal with, they'll have the moles. They'll give you the moles of only one thing. And using ratios, you'll be able to figure out the moles of everything. Very few questions, they'll give you moles of two things. Here, the trouble is you're going to eliminate the excess one. Okay, take those moles, divide by its ratio, take these moles divided by its ratio. Whoever comes out to be the bigger number, don't use those. Use the other one. Okay? So, we'll leave it at this point. We'll try and do questions. Probably Sunday, I'm going to have a class. Okay, we'll do questions.
So when are we gonna start the P6?
P6 रख लेते हैं किसी दिन. भाई Sunday को करते हैं, P6 करते हैं.
Okay.
ठीक है, मैं बताता हूँ टाइम. Okay then. Take
Yeah,
care.
हाफिज सर.